Hi everyone, I'm Geoff Hall.
I'm Bob Spinozzi for another edition of Where in Westford. Okay, Jeff. Westford Common.
Yep.
Driving through there a couple weeks ago, where the cannon and the cannonballs are. There's also a memorial. We all drive by it every time we go through the Common, and most of us, I didn't know what it was all about.
Yeah.
But I stopped and I looked at it. I walked all around it, and there's a real story behind that. It has plaques commemorating wars that started back in the colonial period, right up through World War I. And you're going to tell me why.
Okay. Now, keep in mind, World War I was the war to end all wars. And probably that was the thinking in 1924. Very briefly, at the town meeting, $6,000 was to erect a war memorial. The War Memorial Committee, appointed by the selectmen, resolved to lay before the Massachusetts Art Commission to be passed upon by the body all designs for the memorial which should be received. The design submitted by Mr. Henry L. Norton was chosen. Each of the 8 panels commemorates a different war, okay? And just very briefly, Bob, plate number 2 covers the pioneer in the colonial period. Plate number 3.
Yeah, that colonial period. Now these were the settlers that tamed the wilderness.
Yeah.
I mean, there was nothing. We've gone
King
through
Philip's War, and
so that's kind of all lumped in there.
All lumped in.
What I read on it was that it's covering the period from 1675 to 1763 is what I read.
Okay. And then number 3, Revolutionary War, 1775 to 1783. A couple of key people, Ethan Minot, Captain Oliver Bates, from their call until the surrender of the British at Yorktown, Westford men risked all their civil liberties, okay, to serve in council and in battle. 250 men served and 35 died. Then plate number 4. Plate number 4, Bob, was the War of 1812 to 1815, yeah? Key person there, and I found this very interesting, Commander Joel Abbott. He was actually commissioned as a spy. He later went on, was placed in command at the Boston Navy Yard, and was a commodore in the expedition to Japan in 1852.
Okay.
Interesting. There was only a few people that died in that war from Westford. Plate number 5 bears a large seal of the United States. Plate number 6, 1861 to 1865, Bob. Of course, that's the Civil War.
Yeah.
And Westford lost a good number of people that served in that.
You know, Jeff, on that Civil War, occasionally I think of the communication between Lincoln and Grant. It was by telegraph. And I think about that. Well, when I think about the war room where Obama directed. Bin Laden. But I mean, here that was the troops are already there in the building where.
Interestingly, how many pictures do you see of Lincoln going out and sitting with General Grant at the time, and the troops around him during the war, going out to the battlefield areas?
Yeah.
Without the Secret Service, protection of the Secret Service, and whatnot.
But that was their communication, telegraph.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Plate number 7 does the Spanish-American War. In fact, the cannonballs that are in front that you see, John Long, who was the Secretary of the Navy, had been a preceptor at Westford Academy, and so had connections to Westford. He was the one that procured those cannonballs to be displayed at the Common. In fact, about 22, 23 years ago, to commemorate that, I dressed up as John Long. And I think I have a picture of it someplace.
But they were put in after the dedication. At the
No,
same time?
these were put there before that.
Oh, before that. Okay.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure, Bob.
Yeah.
And then the last one, of course, is the War to End All Wars.
1917 and 1919.
But interestingly enough, you can think of this is 1924. That's the thinking. They want to thank everyone, but how many have gone up in Westford since then? If you go to the other end of the Common, Vietnam and Korean War, that was dedicated in 1983. When I first got on the Board of Selectmen, I remember being at that dedication. There is another one at the other end of the Common for World War II. And there's a specific monument for the Civil War that's on the other end of the Common also. But you go to the villages and you see memorials as well for those who've served. So.
And getting back to that World War I memorial, there's actually another war going on at the same time against influenza.
Oh, yeah.
At the time,
yeah.
so.
Right at the end, 1918.
Yeah, 1918, yeah.
1918.
And it affected the war too, the soldiers in the war, rather. So,
Yeah.
So, okay.
So that's the story behind it, Bob. Like I said, it's funny because the other part of that, this is back in 2009, I was out golfing with Paul McMillan. Paul's a contributor at the museum and a Vietnam War vet like yourself.
Yeah, like myself.
And he had pointed out that those soldiers killed in action during World War I, they had plates at the end of certain streets. Palamo, for example, Langtot from Graniteville, but none since then. So he felt that the Vietnam War veterans should have theirs also. So we went to Paul Murray, and Paul had said, sure, that's a good idea, but you can't just jump from World War I to Vietnam. You need to, include. So we did some research, got the names of those who were killed in action, and had those street markers placed on or about the street where they grew up and lived at the time of World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. Actually, the Gulf War, where I don't think anyone from that. The last one we placed was right on the Groton-Westford line by the VFW of a William Wojtowicz who died in Afghanistan. And let's hope that's the last one we have to put up, Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the story behind it, Bob.
Okay.
So, keep driving around.
So next time you drive through Westford Center, stop and take a look at that war memorial. Okay. Catch you next time.